I'm gonna tell you today a big secret about using fingers with a woman internally, touching the vagina with fingers. Once you understand this secret, it will up your technique to a totally new levels for her. Women experience far more intensity, far more richness of sexual energy in that moment. They can go into some really profound, prolonged, intense orgasmic states, completely nothing like what the whole YouTube is teaching you to do. This video is for everybody. If you are a woman, you can learn about yourself. If you are a woman's lover, whether you are a man or a woman, then of course, that technique is useful for you to know to give her a much more amazing experience. So where does the secret lie? So you need to understand the difference between touching the vagina with one finger and touching it with two fingers. The secret lies in the fact that they are completely different kinds of stimulation where you leverage totally different factors, and this fact is lost pretty much everywhere on YouTube. The technique you're gonna get with one finger is the same technique more or less you're gonna get with two fingers. In fact, a lot of people will not even tell you how many fingers to use or what you should start with and if there's any difference between them. So let's just very quickly cover that first. Do you use one finger or two inside the vagina, and why? I have made videos about this before. You can watch this. It's actually a really important thing to understand. For the majority of women, starting with two fingers is a no-no. Typically, you start with one finger. The woman connects more, she warms up, and then you move on to two fingers halfway through. So what is the secret here? With one finger, the technique you normally get on YouTube and the technique that I will give you, you are stimulating with the tip of your finger. That is your focus point. This is the part with which you are touching sensitive areas. Could be on the G spot, could be on the A spot, depending, I've made videos before about why, the A spot might be more interesting sometimes than the G spot, but that's beside the point. You could be stimulating even the opening to the vagina, but you are stimulating it generally with the tip of your finger, right? For the specifics of stimulation on the G spot, A spot, the opening and everything, you can see my other videos that I've done before. For proper learning with all the demos and full sequences and walkthroughs and exercises, you can see my full course for men. There's a whole module dedicated to the full range of those techniques. The point I'm trying to make here is whatever techniques you're using with your one finger, you're going to be using the tip of your finger on whichever area. And that is just not the case with two fingers. Everybody will tell you that, or will make you feel that you're just doing the same thing, that you are trying to stimulate with the tips of your fingers when you're using two fingers. When you're using two fingers, the main focus of your stimulation shifts from the tip of the fingers to the base of your fingers, because that is now the area that's going to give the greatest influence, the greatest sensation. With the base of your fingers, you are going to be stimulating the opening to the vagina. The opening to the vagina is a really rich and sensitive area. Typically, when you see any content about the techniques with fingers, there will be a focus on the G spot mainly, sometimes on the A spot as well, but it is forgotten that this particular area, the opening to the vagina, can sometimes be far richer, really can be far richer than the G spot or the A spot when stimulated correctly. So there is that whole innervation around the opening to the vagina, what we call the clitoral complex, all those sensitive nerves. It's not just on the surface, but it's like that whole frontal section of the vagina can become really sensitive. It is simply that with one finger, you're not going to affect it very much because it doesn't stretch a lot, right? Because the finger is thin, and that's why you're going to get more sensation by using the tip of the finger on the sensitive areas. Now, when you're using two fingers and you go all the way in, now that has to be done carefully with a good technique, then that whole interaction between the opening and the base of your fingers becomes a lot more effective, a lot more pronounced in the way that you would never feel with one finger. And then it becomes potentially a lot more powerful than what you can do on the G spot or on the A spot with two fingers. So actually you have to shift to seeing this as mainly stimulation with the base of your fingers rather than with movement of your fingers. And don't get me wrong, it is not that now you are only stimulating the opening with the base of the fingers and you are not doing anything on the G spot or the A spot. No, not at all. You actually put them all together. That is the beauty of this technique. When you are masterfully stimulating that whole opening to the vagina, you can still add that sensation inside from the G-spot and the A-spot as much as you want with the same technique you've been doing before. But if you're also aware how this technique is working at the same time, it's just going to magnify everything a lot more. You basically have this really activated, really sensitive, vibrant, orgasmic opening to the vagina that is now transmitting to the G-spot when you're stimulating the G-spot. So it's getting a lot of extra juice in the G-spot, and your technique on the G-spot is going to be enhanced, and magnified, many times over. So your mind needs to shift to stimulating the opening. There is a whole range of techniques that you could be using there in terms of how you are gently kind of probing, stretching it, pushing it. There's different rhythming, sequencing to it. You can definitely combine it as well with the stimulation inside. You can be really aware how that is the primary stimulation, and then you're assisting the stimulation with what you're doing inside. There are extra things you can do with positions, depending on whether you're stimulating from the front or from behind using your fingers. From behind can be even more intense, even more profound. So there's a lot of scope for actually using this technique really masterfully in a variety of ways. That also involves knowing how you build it up, how you create a really kind of ongoing, powerful orgasmic experience by stimulating this area more and more and opening it more and more and unfolding it, right? So if you're not doing that, and if you're just focusing on the G-spot, you're really missing out on the greatest potential at this point with two fingers. So you just need to switch from this dumb G-spot stimulation that everybody's showing you and use the real potential that you've got there when you're using two fingers in the vagina.